Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to do another Armenian stitch. This one is called the square loops. If you need to know how to do the basic Armenian knot stitch, check out my other video called Getting Started with Armenian Knotted Lace, and I'll show you everything you need to do to get started. So again, this is the square loop, and this is an example of the square loop with a row of simple loops over the top of it, just to show you what else you can do with this stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on a piece of crochet cord. I've already done my first knot onto the cord. Now our first loop is going to be a fairly large one. So again, we put our needle into our working material. Our working thread goes over clockwise, tail thread around the back counterclockwise, and pull that through. So we're going to try to make a large loop. There. Now our next stitch is going to go into this loop, so into the loop and under the working thread. Take your tail thread around the back side here for our backwards stitch. And you're not leaving much of a loop here, you're just trying to get your thread to the top of this loop. Hold on just a little bit. So that's our first one. Now our next one's going to be another large loop, but slightly smaller than our first one, since it's coming from the top here instead of all the way from the bottom. And then back into that loop, under both the loop and the working thread, around the back side. And try to keep that next loop at the top. So you can see here, we formed a straight line, which is where it gets its square loop name, and that's all it is for this square loop. And I'll do another one here so you can see. So over, under, pull that through. And the hardest part about this stitch is trying to keep our stitches even. Personally, I tend to make my loops larger and larger as I go on, which ends up with an uneven line on the top. So you just have to be careful, practice, and try to keep them the same height. And that's all it is for the square loop. And since this one was so simple to learn, I want to go ahead and show you one more trick, and that is how to add thread when you've either run out of thread or you have had a mistake that you can't pick out and you need to cut it out. So I'm going to go ahead and add it to this piece here. You can see I have an end of the thread, and there's my last knot. So to add new thread, all you need to do is run your needle threaded with new thread into your last knot. And I've used a different color here so it's easy to see. I'm going to be careful and pull that through, holding onto the knot so that you don't undo the one you already got. Make sure you have tails on both sides, and you can go ahead and tighten that knot to make sure you don't lose it. And then you want to go ahead and work at least one more stitch before you do anything with that joining knot. And I'm actually going to do one more just to get it a little further away from the joining knot. Okay, so now what you want to do with this space where both things are joined is I use a product called Fraylock. You can use any fabric glue that you want. And I just put a little dot on my knot, usually on both sides. And I let it set before I cut off the ends. Often I just keep working, and when I come back around it's dry enough that I can go ahead and clip off the ends. When it is dry, you can cut your tail off as close to the knot as you can get without cutting the knot itself. And that is also how you finish a piece. At your last knot, put on a dot of glue, let it dry, cut it off, and that is how we change colors or add new thread. So I hope that helps. Thanks.